Who do you want to be in your life and your relationships? And what are you willing to do about it? No matter what, whether you have a rocky or exceptional relationship, or even no relationship at all, you will benefit from starting to gain awareness and taking action in your relationships. And that means that this is for anyone. And trust me, you probably haven't heard this before. What's up, everyone? Welcome to part 2. In case you missed part 1, or if you need a recap, here's what we previously reviewed. The power of love languages, lack of acknowledgement and appreciation, and the need to remember and declare what is true for you and your relationship. So, when you finish this episode, if you missed the last one, please go and get complete with part 1. I will link it at the end. Now, before I get into it, I want you to contemplate a few thoughts as you watch. And you can consider these thoughts whether you're single or in a relationship. In what areas do you struggle the most in your own relationships? Have you ever noticed in your current or a past partner where they had a challenging way of being and you realized that they didn't even know that they do it? In what areas can you develop in order to make yourself an absolute powerhouse in your own relationship? And lastly, do you know what a blind spot is? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Alright, today I have 3 more concepts to share as to how to be successful in your relationships and why we fail. The concepts described in this video or in part 1 are not necessarily in any particular order. They are simply significant, and it would be to your benefit to begin to understand and gain awareness. Number 1, what happened versus your story. Did you know that you likely have a filter through which you process all things? What this filter does is it turns what happened into your story of what happened. And don't worry, because we all do this to some degree. It's a learned condition and it is human nature. The good news is that we can overcome it. The bad news is that you very likely do not even realize that you do it. Consider the things that you believe to be true about certain people in your life. That one friend that you used to have. That one uncle. Your boss at work. A challenging parent. And especially your partner. The examples are endless. The problem with this filter is that it makes it very difficult to genuinely listen. As we receive information, it quickly gets jumbled up into our story. As you probably know, we are extremely good at creating our own version of events. So here's a quick example. You get a phone call. It's from one of those people in your life. In your mind, you already know what they're going to say. They might complain, tell you something that you're doing wrong. You're always tired after you interact with them. No matter what, it never goes well. You see, in your mind, you have already decided how this interaction is going to play out. You are now just looking out for the signs of it going the exact same way. Your story is already set. There is no other option but to have it play out in the way you absolutely know it will. Does this sound familiar? This is just one example of your story. The problem is that there's no other space for anything else to happen. Unfortunately, we also do this in our relationships. We create a story in our mind about what our partner is thinking or feeling. What do your stories look like about your partner? Have you ever noticed that you listen with a response in mind versus listening with an empty mind? We can see how this is potentially damaging. It's so easy to sabotage your own relationship. We don't even realize that we've decided what is happening with our partner before we have even considered what is actually happening and what is actually true. And that is the definition of a blind spot. Something which unknowingly occurs, an unintentional act, just like the car that's hidden from the view of your vehicle's side view mirror. It follows, and yet you remain unaware of the potential for danger. And again, due to these blind spots, you won't naturally notice these things that you do. Our stories are something that we've been doing for our entire lives. We are quite good at it. The solution and the practice here is to begin to be present to this fact. The more present you get to this, the more it will disappear. Whatever is distinguished loses power over you, and this is true in any area of your life. Notice it, distinguish it, declare that it exists, then begin to distance yourself from it. Number 2, your essence versus survival mechanism. In other words, what you were born with versus what you have created in order to survive. Your essence are the core traits at the foundation of who you are. Your survival mechanism are the reactions and ways of being that you have created in order to overcome difficult situations and circumstances throughout your life. To put it most simply, your essence comes from a place of love. Survival mechanism comes from a place of fear. Survival mechanism is also typically a reactionary way of being. It disconnects us from our essence and removes us from being in integrity within ourselves. Life comes at you most naturally and easily when you are grounded in your essence. Many of our survival mechanisms were created very early in our life. In your adult life, you likely spend a good portion of your time in the survival state. And realize that this state of being was decided by a very young you. You may have been 5, 8, 10, 12 years old when you created this. And that is who decided who you were going to be and how you were going to react into your adult years. Just think about that for a second. That's how long you've been doing the things that you do. And you are very good at it. Now, what does this look like in your relationships? What does it look like when you are reacting towards your partner? This is probably a common occurrence for you, regardless if you are familiar with it or not. What does it look like when you feel insecurity, fear, or anxiety in your relationship? How do you react? Most likely your reactions to these feelings are being driven by your own unique survival mechanism. And yes, that's right, the one that was decided by an 8-year-old. Alternatively, what does it look like when you're coming from a place of love? Who are you being then, and what does that look like? If you aren't sure what that looks like, you can always just ask your partner. You see, when you're coming from a place of love, you're coming from your essence. The foundation of who you are, clear of all the crap and the BS. And understand that this person is who your partner has chosen. This is who they love and adore, not the survival mechanism. We all understand that sometimes life comes at us and knocks us off balance, so there's no expectation to remain perfectly within your essence. The practice is to maximize your essence and minimize the survival. We do this by first recognizing our essence versus our survival mechanism. Then we practice awareness. Notice when and where it comes up. Another useful tool is to loosely measure it. As you begin to gain more of an understanding of this concept, it will get easier to notice. As you gain understanding, you can gauge by this estimate. So ask yourself, what percentage of time are you spending in your essence versus your survival mechanism? In time, as we learn to take action in our lives, we begin to maximize the time we spend grounded as the person we are meant to be. Number 3, blind spots. Many of the concepts we have covered in these last 2 videos occur as blind spots. And again, this means that they naturally are unseen. And the degree to which they are unseen can vary. We are typically unaware that the ways in which we show our love are the ways which work for us and not necessarily our partner. We do not always realize the lack of acknowledgement and appreciation that we show to our partners. We get so caught up in our storms that we lose sight of all the beautiful things that are true about our relationships. We sabotage ourselves in order to align with a filtered narrative, and while it comes at a cost, ultimately we get to be right. And we are so familiar with going into a state of survival and reaction that was determined by an 8-year-old that we don't even realize when we do it. All of these situations can occur as blind spots. Imagine the damaging effect that is possible and probable. And all of this likely has consistent implications in your current situation. So what do we do about it? A common theme that you probably noticed is that of awareness. It's amazing what you can find once you begin to shine a light in places that you haven't before. Be aware, be mindful, notice, and once you notice, take action. In those moments of awareness, ask yourself this: what action can I take to change course in this moment? When you notice that you are being someone that you do not want to be, what actions would support what you are committed to? And finally, I ask you again, who do you want to be in your life and your relationships? And what are you willing to do about it? Please share your comments below. Let me know what resonates with you. And what would you like me to share with you next? As always, please like and comment on the video. Your engagement with each video helps me to get noticed and pushes out my content. And if you subscribe, and please do, and would like to receive notification when I do drop new content, then you also want to click on that little bell icon down below. So, live on purpose. I'll see you next time.